I didn't expect that one day I would travel to Konoha, and what's more, I will still be an intern teacher after traveling. Dry. Kanda Kiichi sat in the office and doubted his life. The day before, the bear child who was still having a headache in the elementary school didn't like the male teacher. I didn't expect that the next day I wouldn't have to worry about losing my job and being complained by my parents, and now, looking at the noisy children outside, he couldn't get a trace of excitement in his heart. The ninja world is too dangerous. Konoha is relatively safe, but there are still disasters for so many years. This is not. A few days ago, the Battle of Kaikioyama had just ended. Jing-ai was injured and returned to the village. After the initial recovery, he was assigned to the ninja school as a teacher. Alas, it's a pity that the Qian Shao clan has long since fallen, otherwise they would still be able to eat and drink with their backs. Jing Yi sighed. The Kanda family has thousands of blood. The Qian Shao family used to be brilliant. But since the first generation, the Qian Shao family has been constantly dividing and integrating into Konoha. After the second generation, the Qian Shao family basically has only a few direct descendants, and now, basically, Tsunade Heim is the only one who can truly be called the Senju family. However, even Tsunade doesn't actually have Senju as his surname, so Kanda Kayaki can't enjoy the dividends of the Kishao clan. He estimated that the blood of Qian Shao in his body was not strong, at least it can't be higher than Tsunade's own granddaughter. Don't think about the fairy body. Talent. 15 or 16 years old, he is still only Chunin, it seems like that. Jing-ai was very worried. If things go on like this, it's a question of whether or not you can live to old age. After all, Konoha will face various disasters in the future: the Third Ninja World War, the Night of the Nine Tails, Konoha's collapse plan, etc. A Chunin, in the face of those enemies, is simply a mayfly shaking a tree. The aftermath could kill him. Otherwise, if you don't go to get some intercolumnar cells, maybe there is still a chance to master Mu Dun. Jing said to himself. The ninja world is too dangerous. If you don't get stronger, you simply wait to die. He was thinking about this when the bell rang outside. Get out of class has ended. It looks like it's me in the next class. Kyoiki mainly teaches ninjutsu. He didn't understand why he came to teach this by himself. After inquiring about it, it seems that the previous one died in the front line, and the position was vacant and a strong man was temporarily arrested. Therefore, Jing-ai is an intern. Well, let's go to class first. Anyway, the school's ninjutsu class is not difficult. As for the three-body technique, the memory in my head is enough to fool children. Jing Yi thought to himself. Just as he got up, a strange voice suddenly sounded. I couldn't hear clearly at first. But later he understood. Tutor system is being activated, activation successful. Teaching students attentively will get rewards, and becoming a life mentor will get more extra rewards. There is currently a novice gift package, do you want to receive it? Host, mentor system? Newbie gift pack? What is this? Is it a great gift package for the job? Jing was stunned for a moment, then secretly said, get it. Your three-body technique proficiency has been raised to the highest level. You get a reward, bloodline purification. Your bloodline has been purified and upgraded to the bloodline of 1,000 hands, and your physique has been greatly improved. Your soil escape and water escape effects have been improved. In the corridor, Jing-ai first had a lot of usage and knowledge about the three-body technique in his mind, and then he felt his blood boil. He can be sure that his body temperature is soaring. Is this a purification effect? He was a little stunned at first, but then there was a burst of ecstasy. The blood of 1,000 hands. Just looking at the front, the improvement of physique, earth and water is obvious. In addition, a strong physique means that the amount of chakra has become more. There will be more benefits in the future. Identity, intercolumn cell phase, etc., can be imagined. What's more, I still have this mentor system. The novice gift package is so powerful, maybe there will be a chance to get the fairy body or even the reincarnation eye in the future. With this system, it is possible for me to survive in the ninja world. Jing Ai couldn't help being excited. I don't know what the mentor system is like, he thought to himself. From the system prompt, as long as you teach your students carefully, you can get rewards, but later it is mentioned that you can get more rewards by becoming a life mentor. However, what is a life coach? Jing Ai thought about it again and again, and decided to not think about it so much, and went to the classroom to talk about it. Look at who these students are. After the bloodline was purified, he soon noticed the change in his physique. Not to mention, walking is much faster. At the door of the classroom, he saw a familiar person. Uchiha Obito. This guy. Are you Uchiha Obito? Yes, teacher. When Obito saw Jing Ai, he was a little nervous, and stood at the door a little awkward. Go in and sit. Don't think about it. Must be late again. After entering, he saw many familiar faces. Rin, Kurane Ui, Asma. Also, Shishui, Red Bean, and Gale are also in the class. Manpower is scarce in wartime. Many teachers have gone to the front line, so the ninja school with not too big age difference merged to teach together. This is a temporary policy, and it is something that can't be helped, including Jing Ai's temporary recruitment. Hello everyone, my name is Kanda Kiichi, and I'll be your ninjutsu teacher next. Teacher, I heard that you just came down from the battlefield? Can you teach us more practical ninjutsu? As soon as Obito saw Jing entered, he immediately shouted. This thing is really not afraid of life. Pure social bullshit. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com also had a face-to-face with Jing Ai on the front foot, as if they had known each other for a long time. Jing Yi gave him a speechless look. But, in addition to him, Yuhiko and Rin were also very curious about the teacher who came down from the battlefield, and had some expectations in their hearts. They all have the idea of graduating early. Therefore, the battlefield and new ninjutsu are what they yearn for. However, among the ninjutsu mastered by Jing Ai himself, in addition to the 3 body art, there are only shadow clones, instant body art, water waves, and water formations, and it is impossible to teach them, and. With a half smile, he looked around and said, do you think that your 3-body technique is completely qualified and you don't need to practice at all? No one answered, but the expressions of all the children showed that their inner thoughts were in agreement. Okay, then in today's first lesson, I'll teach you 3 body techniques. If you think you can meet my standards, why not teach you new ninjutsu? Jing smiled. With his full level 3 body technique, it's more than enough to teach them. A bunch of cubs who want to run before they learn to walk? Let's go to the exercise field. Okay. Arrived at the training ground. Jing glanced around. There are a lot of geniuses here, but in fact, in terms of comprehensive strength, Obito can at least rank in the top 5. He just doesn't have a will eye. Except him. Possibly the water stopped. Bring soil and stop water, you come up. Yes. Bring the soil to the middle. Shishui also came out. A pair of 2? Together, attack me with all your strength. What? Yes. Obito was still shocked, but Shishui responded without hesitation. Follow closely. Shishui took out Kunmyu, looked at Obito, and made a gesture. This is Uchiha's contact code. Obito was stunned for a moment. This little brother of the family. Seriously? With a serious expression on his face, he nodded lightly, then quickly took out his shuriken and threw it at Beijing. Except for the occasional randomness, lateness, and the lack of awakening, this kid has achieved quite good performance in other aspects. With his unremitting efforts, his shuriken manipulation skills are very strong. More than a dozen shuriken, flying from multiple angles, closed all the roots of Jing Ai. However, when Jing Ai made a seal, a clone appeared. Next moment, the two figures began to quickly avoid the shuriken. The real body and the clone have different movements, but the movements to avoid the shuriken are all perfect, and none of the shuriken hits. Shishui looked for opportunities on the side, but Jing Ai's clone had no flaws at all, so he couldn't tell the difference. And Jing Ai is very fast. Is this the strength of Chunin? He was shocked. Aren't you going to attack? Then it's my turn. Jing Yi smiled, and then quickly went to Obito to kill. Get this done first. On the road, the real body and the clone are one after the other. Two shuriken threw out. Obito quickly retreated, forming a seal in his hand, followed by opening his mouth to spit. A fireball engulfed Jing Ai's figure. The art of fireball. Bring soil. Lin was shocked. This kid is so messed up. In this kind of battle, he actually used this level of ninjutsu. However, the next moment, she found that her worries were unnecessary. In the fireball, Jing Ai rushed out quickly. It's a clone. Zishui understood in his heart. But what about the real body? His eyes swept the audience, his breath finally stopped, and he quickly shouted, "Be careful with Obito." Obito looked bewildered. Careful? Be careful, this is a clone. The next moment, Shishui formed a seal, and instantly moved to Obito's side. He pulled out his kunao and hit the shuriken that was out of position. The shuriken appeared and changed back to the appearance of Jing Ichi. But bang, one foot! Shishui was kicked out. As soon as Obito wanted to act, he found a chill on his neck. Suffering. In the battlefield, you are already dead. Jing Ai said lightly. Obito's strength is not weak, but unfortunately at this stage, he lacks agility. Certainly. Children are about the same. Perhaps the strongest here is Shishui. That instant body technique. Worthy of being the instant stop of the future. Father, like son. Obito didn't know what was going on, but others could see it clearly before Obito released the fireball. Jing threw two shuriken. But after how fireball, there was one more. Apparently, Jing Ai used the avatar technique to dodge, change positions, and then transform into a shuriken. Great is great. Jing Ai's speed was very fast, almost in one go. Amazing! Lin widened her eyes. This teacher, is it really just Chunin? Hong Yui was surprised. If Shishui hadn't noticed it, Obito might have been killed instantly. This teacher is definitely not an ordinary Chunin. Elite Chunin. Even, it is comparable to Jainin. And his three-body technique is amazing. Even my father may not be as good as. At this level, come to be a ninja teacher for them? She thought it was incredible. Do any of you still think the three-body technique is useless? I haven't used the shadow avatar just now, otherwise, adding the shadow avatar can have more changes. Jing Ai said and threw a smoke bomb. The smoke cleared, and there were more than a dozen clones inside. Guess, how many are shadow clones here, and how many are clones? If there is a writing wheel Obito didn't dare to say anything else halfway through. There are very few writing wheels. Not everyone in the clan has awakened, and only the Uchiha clan of Konoha in the ninja world has it. Apart from Sharingan and Bun, there are only a few perceptual secrets that can distinguish the difference between a clone and a shadow clone, but the probability of encountering such an enemy is very low. Most of the time, this approach works. So, you guys are still too young and too simple, study hard, and still take the three-body art class today. Who is for and who is against? Jing glanced around. No one dared to speak. Obito may theoretically be the tail of a crane, but he is not weak in actual combat. Although Zishui is young, his strength is very strong, and he is expected to meet the requirements for early graduation this year. Actually, Shishui thought so himself. He didn't think he could learn much from the ninja school, thinking about graduating early this year and leaving. But when Jing arrived, he felt different. The opponent didn't use the rest of the ninjutsu, just relying on the simple cooperation of the three body art and the body art, he and Obito quickly countered and killed. Such a strength. Is it just Chunin? It turned out that he was still too weak. Facts have proved that the three fires of the new official's appointment are still useful. After a wave of deterrence, no one has any comments on Jing Ai's lectures, and they listened carefully. Konoha office. 3 generations of adults. Sit. The third Hokage was smoking a cigarette, and there was a crystal ball on the desk in front of him. The person who entered the door was Shika Isanara. Ryuju, how much do you know about the kid Jing Ai? Kyoiki. Ryuju glanced at it, and noticed that in the crystal ball, the scene where Jing Yi was training with the children appeared impressively. But he took a few glances and was secretly surprised. What a powerful three-body technique! Not just solid. The knot was so fast that it was almost invisible, and the three-body technique cooperated to the extreme. Although it seems that there are many flaws in the practice field, if combined with smoke bombs, ninjutsu, and shadow clones, Kyoiki will be able to survive on the battlefield with three-body techniques alone. Not only that. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. This kid's physical skills are also very strong. Is he just Chunin? Not right. Ryuju recalled the information about Kyoiki in his mind. He was not so strong before, and his physical skills were excellent, but he was not as strong as in the picture. 3 generations of adults. I remember that Kanda Kiichi's grandmother was from the Senju family. You mean, he probably awakened Qianzhao's bloodline. 3 generations of smoking stopped. Thousand Hand family. It is possible. Qianzhao's bloodline is very strong, and the second generation's chakra and physique were naturally superior to ordinary people. And life and death battles often inspire potential. The pipe tapped regularly on the table. Sandai was silent. After thinking for a long time, he smiled and said, "It's a pity Tsunade is not here, otherwise she would be very happy to know the news." Yes. Ryuju didn't say much on this topic. He looked at the crystal ball, and after observing for a while, he said, "Sir, I think Kanda Kiichi's strength can at least be rated as a special Jainin. He didn't get enough credit, and it's a bit inappropriate to rashly improve." The 3 generations shook their heads. When Ryuju heard the words, he nodded and stopped talking. "Okay, you go down." "Yes." Shikako left. The 3rd generation sat in the seat without smoking, letting the tobacco burn there, looking preoccupied. It's been a long time. He clapped a few times. After a while, an envu appeared. "Let people pay attention to Tsunade's whereabouts, and if they meet, tell her that Kanda Jing Ai may awaken the bloodline of the Qianzhao clan, and ask her if she would like to go back to the village to see." Yes. 3-body jutsu is the most basic ninja and also the lowest consumption ninjutsu. In the practice field, we can use powerful ninjutsu without worrying about the consumption of chakra, but it is different on the battlefield. Save a little chakra, maybe you can save a life. At the beginning, Jing talked about the understanding and skills of self. Some come from the predecessor, but more come from the 3-body technique knowledge provided by the system. Everyone listened carefully. Now is not the same as it was then. The successive wars have made Konoha somewhat green and yellow today. More and more children graduate early to participate in the war, such as Kakashi and Kai. Many of this mixed class may join the war this year. The guidance of an old ninja on the battlefield is really very useful to them. At this moment, even the skinniest Obito dare not whisper. "Teacher, how can I use less chakra?" "Teacher." Time for questioning. A group of people raised their hands enthusiastically. Jing Ai answered patiently one by one. The bell rang. Get out of class has ended. Okay, classmates, you can practice on your own after you go back. If you have any questions, you can come to me after class or ask questions in the next class. If you are all right, you can disband. Jing Yi breathed a sigh of relief. The first lesson in the ninja world was quite perfect. The first phase was intimidating, and the teaching later would not be too difficult. But now it seems that the lecture notes that have been organized before are superfluous. In a real class, it's impossible to follow the script. These students are not other people. Many of them are geniuses and people who have left their names behind. They all have their own ideas. By the way, Obito, the first class tomorrow morning is my class. If you're late, run 200 laps around the playground. What? Bring the native wood. Before leaving, why are you still here? What if you are really late tomorrow? Everyone, see you tomorrow. As soon as Jing finished speaking, he immediately left. Back in the office, he immediately glanced at the system. At the end of class, he heard a prompt from the system, but he didn't listen carefully. Complete the first class teaching evaluation. Excellent bonus ninjutsu water dragon ball technique water dragon bomb. 44 Indian things? Jing was startled for a moment. But after receiving the check, he knew that he was blaming the system by mistake. This is a simplified version of the second generation, with only 4 seals, plus the gain from the awakening of the blood of the 1,000 hands before. This ninjutsu reward is definitely not bad. Go back and try. Jing Yi secretly said in his heart. From the previous activation of the system to the awakening of his bloodline, he has not yet tried the power of water escape ninjutsu, and he has no accurate assessment of his current strength. This can't be done. The outskirts of Konoha. After class, Jing Ai came here and found the riverside area. Next. Shadow clone. A clone identical to him appeared. Time is precious, you go to practice taijutsu moves, and I will try the power of ninjutsu. Nima. Why don't you change our jobs? Shadow clone wanted to complain very much, with a speechless expression on his face. But who made it a clone? No way. He had no choice but to get up and find a place in the woods to start exercising physique moves. If he could practice physique moves such as Konoha Whirlwind and Shadow Dance Leaf, he would make a profit. Jing Yizun checked the lower chakra. There are many more chakras. This chakra volume, at least 3 shadow clones working at the same time is no problem. It can't be compared with Naruto, but it is much more than the adult Kakashi. Jing Yi was quite satisfied. Naruto is not only blood, but also 9-tailed chakra and Azura chakra, which are completely incomparable. He looked around. I found an open space and quickly made a seal. Water dragon bomb. The next moment, the water flow turned into a dragon, and it rose to the sky. With a roar, the ground was smashed into a big hole by the high-speed bombardment of the water dragon. Powerful. Although staying away from the river will be slightly weakened, the difference will not be too large, at most the consumption will increase. In this way, there are kills and defenses. Jing Yi secretly said in his heart. With the water wall, the water dragon bomb, and the water turbulent waves, he doesn't have any major flaws in his current abilities. Certainly. It is limited to Chunin and Shangnin levels. Compared with the ninjas above the elite Jounin, their means seem too weak. But take your time, there is a system, and the days are still long. He got up, ready to go back to have a good meal. As for the avatar, let him exercise over there. Just as Jing Yi took a step, he suddenly noticed a wave of aura, and he turned his head to look over there. Who? Teacher, it's me. Behind the tree, a figure slowly walked out. No need to look at him. Just based on his voice, Kyoiki knew who the other party was. Uchiha Shishui. Ji Shui, are you looking for a teacher? Yes, I have some doubts. I hope you can ask the teacher. Shishui immediately bowed. Seeing that Jing Ai was very gentle, without the slightest impatience, he came over with a hesitant expression on his face. Tell me the story. Teacher, I originally wanted to graduate early this year, but after playing against you, I'm a little worried. Will early graduation cause trouble to my teammates? Shishui said his own problem. Jing was stunned for a moment, then wanted to laugh a little. It seemed that he had hit him. He thought for a while, and then said, with your strength, you are definitely not weak, and you won't be a drag on the battlefield, but if the battlefield is not corrupt, I don't recommend you graduate so early. Teacher, please give pointers. Shishui bowed solemnly. Sit down, let's chat as friends. As soon as Jing sat down, he pointed to the grass and motioned for Zishui to sit down too. Shishui does what it says. Do you know the original intention of the first and second adults to create the ninja school? Shishui shook his head. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Do you know the will of fire? Where the leaves are flying, the fire will continue to grow, and the fire will illuminate the village and make the new trees germinate. Shishui nodded this time. It has been taught by 3 generations, and it must be learned in the thought class. One of the implications is that children are the future of Konoha. The first and second generations of adults advocated building a ninja school in order to let children fight at night. Jing Ai explained. His grandmother belonged to a family of thousands of hands, so these histories are widely circulated, but they are not secrets, so there is no need to worry about being seen by someone who likes to peek. Shishui is thoughtful. The battlefield will make people grow up in advance, but you are only 5 years old. If you study for another year or 2, your strength and thinking will become clearer and more mature, and it will not be too late to go to the battlefield by then. Kiichi said. How many chins are there in the battlefield? No, what is lacking is Chunin and Shangnan. The 3 generations let their children go to the battlefield in advance. In essence, they just hope that they will grow up quickly under the pressure of war. But Shishui stopped talking. He thought about it. The first and second generation adults seem to have said similar things, but why are so many children sent to the battlefield ahead of schedule? Like Kakashi. This senior graduated at the age of 5, and now it is said that he has become a Chunin with outstanding military exploits. War will make people grow rapidly, but correspondingly, they will also lose a lot of things. Running first is not necessarily good. Kyoiki couldn't help recalling the relevant episodes of Kakashi in his mind. The predecessor used to be on the same team as Kakashi. That rascal! It can only be said that the temper is really stinky, and at this stage, people don't like it. I understand, thank you teacher. Of course Shishui didn't understand. At this stage, he can't understand what Jingichi said, but he knows one thing: the teacher doesn't hate him, a student of the Uchiha family. On the contrary, he is very willing to communicate and share with himself. This is enough to make Ji Shui happy. Jing Ai didn't say a word. Ninja school is one of the few places where Uchiha can communicate with the rest of Konoha. After graduating early, it would be too difficult to contact Konoha civilians again. Uchiha seems to be privileged, but in fact he is separated. Jing Ai disagreed, but was powerless to change. He said to Ji Shui that he didn't want to change anything, it was just a sudden rise. However, after a while, he got a prompt: you have received preliminary approval from Uchiha Shisui's heart. You get a reward, the foundation of illusion. Illusion? This really involves blind spots. Jing Ai had a lot of memories in his mind, and after thinking about it carefully for a moment, he was quite satisfied. He didn't intend to be a master illusionist. However, illusion has a solid foundation and has some additional side effects: the ability to control chakra. Teacher, can I ask you some questions in the future? Sure. Kyungsoo had a big smile on his face. Not to deal with it, but to be really happy. Shishui, good boy. Just like the sheep delivered to your door, the wool and scissors are ready for you. Thank you, teacher. Shishui bowed deeply. He didn't realize that his image in Beijing had changed from a good boy to a big fat sheep who could only lick wool. Let's go, the teacher invites you to have a meal. Jing smiled. Ah? No, no. Shishui was a little embarrassed, but was dragged away by force. Far away. Shadow Clone looked resentful, watching him leave with Zishui from a distance. Good guy. Anything with students, it's all fake. What's more, he simply wanted to not exercise, and let his clone work here as a coolie. The mentality is broken. Jing I let the avatars train with taijutsu moves. As for the body, this can only be practiced by oneself. Going back and doing it again, the injury is still not healed. And when you are full, you have the strength to exercise. Yul Ramen Restaurant. Boss, 2 bowls of ramen. Okay, sir, please sit down for a while. Now Yul is only in his 20s and looks very young, and his daughter Iris was born not long ago. Shishui looked around curiously. He had heard of this store, and Obito seemed to like coming here, but he hasn't eaten yet. Soon. Lin, I was really just being careless during the day. If I do it again. No, when I wake up to write round eyes, I'll definitely beat the teacher all over the place. Obito is bragging outside. Before entering the door, he was still dancing, talking, and gesturing. Stop the water and help the forehead. I just thought of this elder brother from the same clan, but I didn't expect that the next moment would come, and the appearance was so unexpected. Looking for teeth all over the place. Thank you for being able to say it. He has written many round eyes, but he doesn't think he can win Jing Ai, especially after seeing the power of Jing Ai's water escape ninjutsu, he feels even more so. The water stop is very clear. In class, the teacher didn't show any real interest at all. Jing Yi was not surprised at all. Obito is called the tail of the crane by Kakashi, not without a reason. This product is not weak. But in this period, he was just like Naruto in the early days, his combat IQ was really not good. Dieter, cooperation? Don't know. He is still very arrogant and talks about sharing I all day long, although the gap between him and many Uchiha geniuses is actually just a shaker. Entering the door, Lin immediately stopped. Obito shuddered all over, seeing Jing Ai's first reaction was turn around and leave. But no, I have to go to class tomorrow. Running now is escaping. Looking back, the punishment may be more serious. His face turned green. Nimas. I'm just bragging, why is it so coincidental? People are numb. He pulled out a stiff smile at the corners of his mouth, and bowed deeply as he entered the door. Smimarsai. Obito, you are very good. You make mistakes as fast as you apologize. Yes, I'm very sorry. Obito's face turned red. Okay, sit down. Tomorrow, I will test the combination of transformation and avatar. Then you will come on stage and give everyone a demonstration. What? Pfft. Lin couldn't hold back anymore. How arrogant Obito bragged just now, but how cowardly he is now. She was amused. Teacher, I can't do it, chakra control, I'm the last. Obito's voice was inaudible when he got to the back. It was mainly because he boasted that he could beat the teacher if he had a shackle on his front foot, but he was hit with his back foot. The situation was really embarrassing. It's a good thing to know that you're not enough. Practice more while you're not on the battlefield yet. As for the riding wheel, the limit of blood is only external, whether you are strong or not depends on you. Zishui, what do you think? It's a good thing to have numbers. Jing Yi Sheng Kao is a sermon. What if you hit a point and get a wave of rewards? A life coach. Try more, there will always be something. It just so happens that there is another Uchiha here. Isn't it a coincidence? It makes sense. Shishui thought for a long time, and finally nodded lightly. No Uchiha didn't want to write round eyes, but he listened to Jing I's words, thought about it carefully, and found that, as the teacher said, many strong people do not have the limit of blood, but they are still strong. For example, 3 generations of Hokage, 3 generations of Raikage. They are all strong men who have no blood, but are still famous in the ninja world. Obito felt uncomfortable, but couldn't find a reason to refute it. At this time, the ramen came. Guests use it slowly. Thanks. Jing Ai sorted out his mood, and then according to local etiquette, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com walked through the scene before starting to move his chopsticks. He snorted in one mouthful. Good to eat. The taste is very rich and the ingredients are abundant, no wonder it has been able to stand in Konoha for so many years. Shishui has a complicated mood. There was apprehension and joy. This was the first time he didn't eat in the Uchiha clan. But feeling good. Obito was depressed and sat on the side to shut himself up. But as soon as the ramen came up, he immediately turned into a rice cooker. I'm gonna start now. In the middle, he beat his wife and came out to help with the child. The store is too busy. Jing Ai and the others came early, so they had a seat. Those who came later could only stand in line and wait in line. This was still during wartime, and if it was normal, there would be more people. With a good craftsmanship, even in the ninja world, he can make money. After eating, Jing Yi paid for the treat, then said goodbye to Shisui, Obito and Lin, and went home. Looking at it, I didn't get any reward. But not a big problem. Now it's time to raise fish, and one day they will be hooked. Leeks are not afraid of being strong. After arriving home, his shadow avatar chakra was exhausted and the avatar state was released. A wave of exhaustion emerged. That feeling is really sour. But it works really well. Although physical exercise is ineffective, the experimentation and training of physique moves are effective, and it can almost let him know what level his physique is at. Roughly estimated, the single body technique should be considered a powerful group in the Shangnan. Certainly. This is nothing, I can only say that if I go to the battlefield again, I have a certain ability to protect myself. Taijutsu and water escape are my current strengths. Although I have obtained the foundation of illusion and strengthened my ability to control chakra, illusion is not my specialty, and the next step should be to think more about earth escape. Jing Yi secretly planned. The reward of illusion is completely unexpected, and it is not enough to be included in the plan. Or is it more important to escape? Although Shui Dun is strong, it has certain geographical limitations. Tu Dun still has to be mastered. Certainly. Another important reason is to be rated as Shangnan, mastering 2 escaping techniques is a must, otherwise Jing Ai can only serve as a special Shangnan even if he has enough credit. If you want to find a corner in Konoha, it's definitely not enough to be especially high-minded. Jing Ai stood at the door. The Kanda family's house is not small, but there are not many people in the house. His parents died in the Second Ninja World War, and his grandmother passed away a few years ago. But there are still some treasures in the house, some books left by my grandmother back then. The Qian Shao clan is very generous. Every clan who intermarry with a foreign clan will ask them to bring something as a dowry. She brought those scrolls from the Qian Shao clan. The predecessor didn't care about those. But Jing Ai felt that there might be something there that could be used. He rummaged carefully. Sure enough. One of the volumes contains special contents. Some of Senju Tobirama's swordsmanship information, although only a copy version, did not systematically form swordsmanship moves, but formed a complete swordsmanship system. Konoha-style swordsmanship. This book is really precious. Jing Yi sighed in his heart. Grandma didn't choose ninjutsu scrolls, but chose to copy this book because she was very wise. If the descendants have enough understanding, a swordsmanship system can be extended from this book, but unfortunately his father does not seem to have that understanding and did not realize the secret art. Although he has mastered certain swordsmanship, it is very superficial, and he will not learn it in his predecessor's generation. Jing Yi thought for a moment and put the book away. Take a good look tonight. He looked at the rest of the books. They weren't ninjutsu scrolls or secret scrolls, they were just ordinary books that recorded family history, but compared to the second-generation swordsmanship notes, those family history books were read the most times. Yes, start practicing now. After Jing Yi rested, he had already recovered. He went to the yard. The next moment, Junyin. Ontology, it's best to practice this kind of thing yourself, right? If I want to exercise, I can only let you do the swordsmanship. Jing smiled. The clone was speechless. Sure enough. When the shadow clone came out, how could it be a blessing? Let's practice. The next day, Jing Yi came to the school full of energy. The power of Qianchao's bloodline was completely felt today. Not just physique. Yesterday, I had a high-intensity training for the shadow clone and the main body, but the whole night was full of vitality, and there was no sense of fatigue at all. It is soil. When Jing arrived in class, she couldn't help but want to laugh. It came with the soil stuck. It looked like he was rushing all the way, and he had consumed a lot of chakra on the way, and now he was out of breath and very embarrassed. Teacher, I'm not late. Obito took a few breaths. For fear that he would be late, he did not stop along the way. His physical and telekinetic skills were inherently poor, and he ran to school with little chakra left. I said yesterday that you were the first to come up and demonstrate the combined use of the clone technique and the transformation technique. Jing Yi stood on the podium and smiled. What? After hearing this, Obito's face froze instantly, and then he quickly collapsed. He forgot about it. Or is it out of his own mouth? Or, I wish I didn't take Lin to eat ramen yesterday. He took a deep breath. Then, he took the courage to step up to the stage. He quickly formed the seal. Compared with Naruto, Obito's control of chakra is still much stronger. After all, there is no nine-tailed chaos in his body, but I have to say, this chakra control really stinks. Soon, the chakra overflowed, and after a while, a Kanda who was lying on the ground appeared beside Obito. It's exactly the same. Jing Yi sighed in his heart. Obito grimaced. He didn't feel ashamed, just wondered if Jing Yi would punish him for it again. This teacher. People are good, but the eye of the heart is as small as the eye of a needle. You have a lot of chakra, and your talents in ninjutsu and shuriken are good, but taijutsu and chakra control are weak points. You have to step up your training, otherwise you will be hindered in the future on the battlefield. Jing Yi reminded. Obito hurriedly bowed and said, Thank you, teacher. In the past, teachers would only shake their heads. But this Kanda-sensei, he didn't mean to look down on himself, but instead opened his mouth to raise a few points, which alone made Obito wipe out many thoughts in his mind. Climbing trees, treading water, take care of yourself. Jing Yi said lightly. Climbing trees, treading water. Many students below were puzzled. Including Irika. They are commoners. How can they know this kind of knowledge before they are divided into groups? Using chakra to attach to the soles of your feet to climb trees and tread water, just use chakra to allow yourself to walk on the water. Kiichi said. I seem to have heard my father mention it. Have you practiced? Obito asked. No, I did it without practice. Hong Yui shook her head. Nima. Talented people are really annoying. With soil belly slander. Teacher, can you tell me in detail? Can. Jing Ai explained clearly how to climb trees and tread water. This kind of knowledge is not a mystery. But knowledge itself has barriers. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. If no one teaches, the people below will not understand. He mentioned that these are also the hopes that civilian children can practice in advance, so that they will not fall behind too much on the battlefield in the future, and have more hope of surviving. Certainly. Perhaps the third generation hopes that these will be postponed to teaching in groups. But this is wartime, how can Shangnan have time to teach? You guys usually practice more, that's all right, the next one. Jing Yi nodded and motioned for the others to come up. Except for Obito, the others don't consume much chakra, and their control is good. It is not difficult to combine the transformation technique with the avatar technique. Later, he asked to increase the number of avatars. This is more difficult. But this time, even Obito recovered. Although 2 or 3 of them were crooked melons and cracked dates, it could be seen that Obito's own abilities were not as good as Naruto's. Previously, he was just exhausted from chakra. Soon. A class is over. Easy. Jing Ai enjoyed it a little. The children of the ninja world are much easier to teach than the bear children in the previous life. They are all very obedient, and the most skinny students are only late, skip class and leave early. Not to mention, when he took over, the students left early. Come back to the office. Jing took a look at the I-system panel. Completed the lectures on transformation, combined use of avatars, tree climbing and treading water. Evaluation, excellent. Reward, chakra perception. Chakra perception? Jing looked around and then chose to receive it with a thought. Then, his fingers touched the ground, and after a while, chakra came out, and everything around him came into his mind. It sure is this technique. Exactly. This is not ninjutsu or secret art, but the ability of the second Hokage Senju Tobirama. Okay. Jing Ai chakra scattered, and he quickly sensed the darkness around him. There was a figure in the dark, but from his position, he could clearly see part of the situation in his courtyard and even in the house. Anbu? Kanda Kiichi didn't turn his head. He knew that the other party was probably staring at him at the moment. Looking further out, Anbu still exists in another part of his house, but no more. To Anbu. Jing Yi converged on chakra, and after thinking for a moment, he already understood. I used to be only Chunin, and the people above are very clear about how strong I want to be. After returning from injury, I have improved a lot, and my physique has improved. 3 generations may have guessed it. The current monitoring, on the one hand, is just in case, on the other hand, is to confirm the situation. The 2 Anbu should have followed yesterday. The blood of 1,000 hands. Jing Ai pondered for a moment, narrowed his eyes, and finally said nothing, pretending he didn't know that there was Anbu around his house. But he's not just considering 3 generations. There is also a troop. Most of Konoha's dirty things have something to do with him, and 9 out of 10 plots are never wronged in his name. Therefore, the previous life Danzo was called the Pot Shadow. Previously, Jing Ai thought that he was miserable, and he was blamed for 3 generations all his life, but in Konoha, he had to consider the impact of Danzo, this old bastard. He should have been secretly studying intercolumnar cells in recent years, right? In the past, only Tsunade was left in Konoha's true Chien Shao bloodline, and Tsunade was so powerful and prestige that Danzo didn't dare to move. However, I am different. The Kanda family is left with only oneself, a Chunin. No one dares to say anything if it is dealt with in secret. The more Jing Ai thought about it, the more in danger he felt. Now that Konoha is the 3rd generation and Danzo is in power, it is really hard to imagine what these two old yin goods will do. Fortunately, I obtained chakra perception. With this perception technique, you can at least predict the opponent's actions in advance. Actually, if I only have cells between columns, it would be very good for me to get my hands on them, but it's no different from Danzo, it's no different from seeking skin with a tiger. Today's class is over, many of you are not up to the standard in the three-body technique. You have to continue practicing when you go back. Another day of class is over. Jingyi was a little tired. This class is too talented, but there are still many chakras who are not strong in control as students, they are naturally enough. But as genin who want to go to the battlefield, they are still far behind. Among them, Obito made rapid progress. He can already climb trees. This guy is indeed very talented, but unfortunately he keeps talking about shakers, as if he can destroy the world if he opens his eyes. Jingyi was unable to complain in his heart. After leaving the school after class, he secretly observed it with chakra perception. The dark part is gone. Left. Jingyi thought to himself. If it is the root, it will never give up easily. It seems to be the subordinate of the third generation. This is a good thing. He breathed a sigh of relief, touched his pocket, and let out a long sigh. I was going to find someone to forge a sword. But poor. He understood the corners. Because at this moment, he can't wait to find a wanted criminal and arrest him for money. Chunin's salary is too low. That's all. Exercise first. As for the sword, we will talk about it when the salary is paid. Kyoiki started to run to the suburbs along the Konoha road. However, not long after, he sensed that someone was following him. He walked forward quietly. Shishui followed from behind and was about to chase forward when suddenly, the cold kiwa was around his neck. The one running ahead turned into a bubble. Clone. Shishui was surprised. Teacher, have you found me? I found out what's difficult for you, don't you still have classes? Jingyi made a joke, and then put away Kunao. Shishui bowed gently. A look of hesitating to speak. Walk, run together. Yes. When Zishui saw that the teacher didn't ask any further questions, there was a hint of joy on his face. Then he followed Jingyi, and the two ran outside along the road one after the other. After getting far away from Konoha, Zishui caught up and whispered, Teacher, I went back yesterday. The Patriarch hopes that I can graduate this year and then join Anbu. Your Patriarch? Uchiha Fuiak. Jing raised his brows after hearing this. No wonder he ran so far to say these things, and at the same time, Shishui was also surprised that he would talk to him about this. This kid. Really trust yourself. Oh, he knows shit. What? Shishui was stunned for a moment. My own teacher. He was a little surprised that he would say such a thing. Ji Shui, you are a smart person, and you trust me to talk about this with me. I am very moved. Do you know what your patriarch means? You can guess. Shishui's air pressure is low. Although he is young, he is very smart and precocious, and he already knows many things. For example, the Patriarch's intention is obviously to hope that he can quickly show his talent, show his intention to lean towards Konoha, and then join Anbu to serve Uchiha. But he didn't think it was right to do so. Zishui, did you have any unpleasant things in your school at ninja school? Unpleasant? Well, not at all, it's just people who don't want to be close to us Uchiha from other classmates. Do you know the reason? Jing smiled. Shishui shook his head. You are still young, and you can't control many things. I said you may not know much, but you can keep your own ideas. Yuyukanshu www.yuyuganshu.com. Observe and think more with your own thinking. Like the problem you encountered, you can think about the reason, and treat it as an extra topic for skipping class this time. After Jing Ai finished speaking, he directly accelerated the speed. Wonder why? Shi Shui was stunned for a moment, then quickly followed. He pondered as he ran. However, where did Shi Shui think about this? Before, he just thought about those classmates ignoring him, and he didn't pay attention to those people. Anyway, he will graduate soon. But investigate the reason. Is it because of the Uchiha clan? But why? He thought about it and thought it was really weird. Unknowingly, he followed Jing Ai for a short distance, and he was so tired that he was out of breath. Jing Ai had actually slowed down, but Zishui still followed as if he didn't notice it. Soon, they ran back to Konoha. Okay, let's go here today, and talk later when you want to understand. Jing smiled. Ji Shui definitely wouldn't understand the class contradiction. Let him figure it out for himself. And there is an example here. Yes. Shi Shui nodded heavily. As soon as Jing left, he was about to return to the Uchiha clan, and when he glanced at random, he saw a person who surprised him a little. Bring soil. Why is he here? This is a small village on the edge of Konoha. Most of the people living there are commoners and some old men and old ladies. Obito seems to have a good relationship with them, and they jokingly eat the fruits given by the old ladies. Why? What is Shi Shui doing? He's helping civilians carry water and firewood. What? The three generations' eyes flashed with confusion. The moment he heard the news, he even thought that he had heard the wrong name, and that Obito was Shisui, but after a while, he felt that he was not old enough, and his subordinates were not so dazed that they recognized the wrong person. He was stunned for a long time. Then, put down the pipe in his hand. Shi Shui helped to carry water and firewood. Yes. Anbi was also confused. In fact, carrying water and carrying firewood is the work of Chinen. But now is the time of war, so where can I do this kind of work? So many tasks have been accumulated, and I usually do it there with soil, and everyone just pretends not to see it. However, Shisui is a genius of the Uchiha family. He didn't go to training, and just like Obito, he went to a commoner's house to work for free. What was he trying to do? Well, I see. Sandai waved his hand and motioned him to go down. Then, he immediately took out his crystal ball and used the telescope technique. Soon, in the crystal ball, there is a picture of Obito and Shi Shui helping to carry water together. The three representatives were at a loss. He didn't understand at all why Shi Shui also messed with it. Is it the soil? Or Uchiha Tomi take? The third generation frowned. If it is the soil and the water stop, then it's okay to say, but if it is Uchiha Fugaku, it will be really troublesome. He lit his cigarette unconsciously. After thinking about it carefully, the third generation thought of another person. Kanda Kiichi. I heard before that since Jing Ai became a teacher, Zishui gradually got closer to him, and after that, the two of them ate bowls of noodles at Yul Ramen. Is it him? Not impossible. Thinking of this, Sandai pulled out the Anbu scrolls from the previous 2 days. It was written on them what they had seen. The body is strong and the recovery ability is very strong. I use the shadow clone to speed up the training. In the hospital, I practice swordsmanship. It is suspected that there is a second generation of adults. According to dark observation. Although Kyoiki's body is not as scary as that of the first generation of adults, it is not too different from Senju Tobirama's physique. There is no doubt about the blood of 1,000 hands. As for the swordsmanship notes, the one from the Kanda family was a close relative of the teacher back then. The three generations sighed in their hearts. He never imagined that the Qian Shao family was gone, and it was incredible that one day he could awaken such a powerful physique among the descendants of Qian Shao. Certainly. If that's the case, the three generations still have doubts. The Qian Shao clan disappeared. Perhaps not everyone wanted to do so, and he was still a little worried in his heart. But if Shishui's change is really because of Kanda Kiichi, then he is really overjoyed, because it is enough to prove that the descendant of Qian Shao, who has awakened after another generation, still has the will of fire in his heart. The 3 generations pondered over and over again, took out the test list of Shangnan, and added one to the top. Kanda Kiichi. For the next 2 days, Jing Ai had no class. When he came to school on the 3rd day, sitting in the office, he heard the teacher in another class complaining to another. "Hey, I don't know what's going on, Uchiha Shisui has also started to be late recently. Definitely learn from Obito. Indeed, every time Shisui is late, that kid will have a share." Shisui also started to be late? Jing Yi was surprised, then looked strange. Even being late to learn a hand? Absolutely. I asked him to observe, but I didn't tell him to really learn to do things with soil. Jing Ai, today is your first class. If those 2 boys are late again, you can't be lenient. The first time you show mercy, they won't be afraid the second and third time. Yes, thank you Ishimura-senpai. Jing nodded. As the time approached, he was about to pick up his things and walk to the classroom. When he glanced outside, he saw 2 figures swooping past the door. Although it is fast, the teacher is at least Chunin, so he can see clearly. "Stop water, bring soil." In the office, the atmosphere was dull for a while. There is no class yet. The 2 boys didn't behave like this 2 days ago, and even Shishui took the lead to skip class occasionally. As a result, it was Kanda Kiichi's turn. Not only were they not late, but they arrived early. I thought it was because the water-stopping school was broken. Unexpectedly, the other party just didn't like his class. What's more, my mind has collapsed. Ishimura Takasung stared at Jing Ai, watched him leave the office, and then couldn't help but bang his head against the desk with a look of embarrassment. "Teacher Shiken, it's not like that, just 2 bare children. No, temporary teachers are more popular than me, it's uncomfortable." Takashi Ishimura wanted to cry but had no tears. He thought to himself that he had taught for more than 10 years, and that he had graduated countless ninjas, but in the end, he was not as popular as a student who was temporarily transferred. The other teachers were silent for a moment. Heartbroken, old iron. Kanda Kiichi left the office, but he actually heard it. No way. Perceptually, the ear strength has also improved. Regarding this, all he can say is, what they teach is all dry stuff, they are naturally incomparable with themselves. To the classroom. Everyone sat upright. Today I saw Obito and Shishui rushing to class with the Shunshu technique. It's very good. In this way, let's test the 3-body technique first. If there is no problem, I'll tell you about the Shunshu technique. Jing Ai thought about it and said. A few days ago, I didn't teach new content, and even the system didn't bubble up. Teach something new today. Instant body technique. This technique is actually only a level ninjutsu, but the effect is very different in the hands of different people. It is also a basic ninjutsu worthy of deep practice. Okay. The class was full of jubilation. Certainly. Only part. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com because there are a large number of people who don't actually master the 3-body technique. Jing took a look around, smiled and said, "Don't be too happy, we are in a special period now, so the upper and lower grades are mixed together to teach. I see it as a whole, understand?" Yes. Lin, Hong Yui and several other senior students instantly understood the meaning. They are almost useless. In the whole class, if many people are not proficient in the 3-body technique, they have to wait for those children who are slow in understanding. If you want to learn the instant body technique earlier, you have to help the children who are behind to improve their grades. Obito knew that he had his own share here. But he has confidence. In the past 2 or 3 days with Ji Shui, he did not always do good deeds, and occasionally asked this genius brother for advice. Tested. Sure enough. Although most of them have mastered it proficiently, half of them have not learned to climb trees, tread water, and the three-body technique is relatively unfamiliar. At this time, many geniuses below began to write comprehension and lecture notes, pondering how to motivate other people in the class. During free practice, most quickly find those students who are behind. Jing Ai admires his genius. Originally, I had to catch children with poor grades, but now I haven't solved it all. Who said they were bears? That's not good. But a student caught his attention. Moonlight Blast. This kid is very gifted and learns quickly, but cough cough, the transformation technique and the clone technique are used in combination. It is a good idea to allocate chakra, and the seal must be formed quickly. You can complete the tree climbing first. Ahem, I will teach you. This cough. A bit fierce, brother. Moonlight Blast. Information about him appeared in Jingichi's mind. Moonlight, a family heirloom of swordsmanship. Poor health. But in the memory of Jing Ai's previous life, there are many more in-depth materials. Tadun, suspected of tuberculosis. There were no anti-tuberculosis drugs in this era. Yueguang Blaze had a lung disease since childhood, and he also practiced dungeon and swordsmanship. No wonder he died early in the future. Jing Yi frowned. To the Yueguang family, he is just an outsider, and what can he do even if he interferes? She doesn't know how to use medical ninjutsu, and she doesn't know any medicine either. Can't do anything. For such a disease, in the absence of special medicines, only one person can cure Konoha Tsunade. However, the current Tsunade Shenlong can't see the end, and if you want to find her, you can only go to various places to stay, which is too difficult. There are good students and poor students, and Jing Ai doesn't have to do it himself. Children in the ninja world are sensible. I was just resting. Before class, he split up a shadow clone to practice swordsmanship at home. Too tired to bear it for a while. The mentality of the teachers in the office was even more broken. Isn't this kind of teaching misleading the children? But the strange thing is that the children are very happy, and they are very motivated. Weird. Is self-study better than teachers teaching? Confusing. They originally wanted to learn secretly, but now, they can only say that Jing Ai's teaching makes them difficult to understand. After class, Jing took a look at the eye system and couldn't help but be overjoyed. You have mobilized the autonomy of the students, and most of the students have learned something. Evaluation, good reward, the proficiency of the instant body technique is improved. Jing Ai's body twisting technique is not bad, but it's only good in Chunin, but at the level of Jainin, it seems a little unattractive. This wave of proficiency rose in time. He figured it out a bit. The reward of the system should be based on the improvement effect and psychological feedback of students. So he understands. Jing Ai pondered for a moment, and after clapping his hands to attract everyone's attention, he said, "This class is here, everyone can practice on their own after school, and I will test them in the next class. If the effect is up to standard, I can guide you." It is good. Everyone was enthusiastic. The teachers who don't know are very impressed. Jing Ai looks young, but his teaching methods are very strong, while those who know have mixed feelings, envy, jealousy, and hatred. It's so easy. It happens that students eat this set. After all, as long as you master it proficiently, you can learn new knowledge and ninjutsu. Who doesn't want it? To replace them, they also want. Students are not stubborn. In schools, teachers will only teach the most basic things, and others will not involve too much. Not that teachers don't want to teach, but most teachers themselves are not proficient. They also know a little about climbing trees and treading water. However, the instant body technique is much worse. The level of their level, the Shangnin people do not look down on them at all, and even some children from families do not look down on them. If they are taught, accidents will happen, so it is better not to teach them. Kanda Kiichi. They don't know much about Jing Ai, they only know that this kid was injured in the battlefield, and after he recovered, he was taken to Lei Gong. Temporary, different. Senior Shikan, my class is over, and the next class is yours. Okay, thank you Kanda-sensei. Takashi Ishimura took a deep breath. It's my time. He must let the children know that teaching depends on the old teacher. Jing Yi packed up his things. After calculating the time, when I came back from an injury some time ago, Kaikyoyama was nearing the end. The battle with Sandian village is almost over for the time being. There should be peace for a while during this time. But in half a year at most, the war between the outer village and the country of fire will begin again. I don't have much time for myself. Fortunately, there is a system. Jing Ai received the reward, and a lot of knowledge about the telekinesis came into his mind. The level of proficiency depends on the details. Use of chakra, physical strength, etc., grasp of speed, etc. Go out to practice. Jing Yi sorted out the documents and left the school. After confirming that no one was watching, he ran a long way, and then he probably had a bottom line. Not a small improvement. Chakra consumes and casts telekinesis much faster, and grasps the speed and distance more accurately. His telekinesis is now more powerful than many joinin. This level. Not to mention ordinary students, even if the current Zishui can still be calm. Go back to eat. After exercising his muscles and bones, and only messing around with breakfast, he is really hungry now. He went to the village. To the village entrance. When two people appeared in his sight, Jing Yi was surprised when he saw this scene. Stop water, bring soil. Did the two skip class again? She even ran out to do good deeds. Do good deeds, right? Zishui, is it really good for us to do this? Teachers sighed. It's all right, I know all the shuriken taught by Ishimura-sensei. Brother Obito, if you don't understand anything, I can teach you everything. Good guy. Zishui is also the main culprit of truancy. Let you observe, but you have surpassed Obito. Kyoiki was a little curious, what does Takashi Ishimura feel now? He must be very angry. For their own class, the two of them rushed to attend. In his class, he just slipped away. It's too disrespectful. Jing Ai felt that he might not look good when he met tomorrow, but it doesn't matter. He was a temporary worker at the ninja school, and he might leave next year, so he doesn't need to care about the opinions of these people. Jing shook his head and prepared to eat noodles as planned. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. But at this time, Shishui also found him. Teacher, are you here? Shishui really does not avoid suspicion. He was still skipping class, but when he saw Jing Ai, he ran over. You're really not afraid of me, so you're not worried that I'll take you back. You're not that kind of rigid teacher. Shishui smiled. Obito was a little afraid to approach behind him, but he was relieved to find that Jing Ai had no intention of taking Zishui back. I asked you to observe, but I didn't ask you to follow along, and I even dragged Obito to skip class together. Jing Ai was speechless. I understand a little bit, but I don't fully understand it. I don't know how to say it at all, so I want to try again. Shishui scratched his head. Along with Obito, he found that the attitude of the commoner old ladies to him became more and more kind, and seemed to forget that he was a member of Uchiha. But ask him to tell the reason, but he can't tell. At this moment, Ji Shui felt as uncomfortable as an insect bite, and he didn't want to go to any class except for Jing Yi's class. As for the soil, this guy is good at ninjutsu and fighting, but let him think about these things. Shisui feels that he is too strong even though Obito is 4 years older than him. Go ahead, don't say you've met me. Jing Yi nodded. In his opinion, this is a good thing. The original Shisui was too naive, thinking that the conflict between Uchiha and Konoha could be resolved only by means of ninjutsu and illusion, but he did not know that everything he did was useless. Stopping the water is naive. Even with Itaki, he was demoted, and he did a bunch of cerebral palsy in the future. Thinking about it now, it's pretty good. What are you talking about? I don't understand at all. It's nothing, teacher, bye. Shisui waved goodbye. He still doesn't understand, so he has to continue searching for answers. Jing Yi watched them leave, sighing inwardly. In Konoha, Uchiha is not the only corner, it can be called a village within a village. There is another family that does the same. The Hyuga clan. Uchiha sends people to the ninja school at least every year, while the Hinata clan almost never sends people to the ninja school, most of them teach within their own clan. However, only Uchiha was targeted, while Hinata was not suppressed by any policy, and the reason was not just in the Uchiha clan's different hearts themselves. Even if Shisui becomes the patriarch and leads his clan to become a good Uchiha, Danzo may not be willing to put down the butcher's knife. In terms of his attitude towards Uchiha, he is even worse than the third generation. If Shisui couldn't figure out the reason for the estrangement between Uchiha and Konoha civilians, there would be no need to elaborate on these things. Jing Yi turned around and went to Yul Ramen restaurant. As for the third generation, what are you worried about? After all, Sandai is different from Danzo. I just contacted Shisui because of the friendship between teachers and students, and asked Shisui and Obito to help the commoners and white jobs together. He has to thank us. He went to Yul Ramen restaurant. Just as he was about to sit down, a figure quickly came towards him. Swoosh a sound. A masked Anbu ninja appears. Kanda Kiichi, the third generation ordered you to go to the Hokage building. Yes. Okay, I'll go right away. Jing Yi was surprised. But the other party's purpose is very strong, and it is obviously aimed at himself. He didn't think much, and followed Anbu ninja to the Hokage building. Both of them used the shunjutsu very fast, and they arrived at the Hokage building in just a few seconds. 3 generations of adults, people brought it here. Go down. Yes. Anbu ninja disappeared. In the office, only 3 generations of Hokage and Kanda Kiichi were left. The third Hokage took off his hat, stood up with a smile like an ordinary old man, looked up and down at Jing Ai, and sighed, I didn't expect you to be so old after not seeing you for a few years. 3 generations of adults know me. Jing Ai was a little surprised. Of course, your grandma and my teacher are close relatives. I hugged you when you were born. Sandai said with a smile. This. I never heard grandma mention it. Jing scratched his head shyly and smiled awkwardly. But he has a clear mind. It's hard to say whether there is such a thing, most likely not. But there's no need to dismantle it. Sandai said this scene, and he has been using many actions to close the psychological distance between him and himself when entering the door, obviously trying to win over him. This is better than refusing. He, after all, you are still my son and nephew, sit down and chat as family. Thank you, 3 generations of adults. Jing Yi bowed. After 3 generations sat down, he took the chair and sat down. Sandai picked up the cigarette stick, pointed it with a smile, and said, How are you feeling recently after you returned to the village from an injury? Master Hui, you may not believe it. After my injury, my body seems to be stronger, and my water escape ninjutsu seems to be more powerful. Jing Ai told some of the information truthfully. The smile on the third generation's face became brighter and brighter. After taking a puff of cigarettes, he said, "Silly boy, you have the bloodline of the Qian Shao family in your body. This is the awakening of the Qian Shao bloodline." "Ah? Really? That's right. The 3 generations are more and more happy." Kanda Kiichi didn't hide anything, and gave him truthful feedback. "This is good." After he smoked a cigarette, he said, "I've also heard about your performance in school. It's wartime, and the school's grades and graduation times are very confusing. It doesn't make much sense to follow the class step by step. You've done a good job of teaching flexibly." "Yes." Jingyi had a big smile on his face, thinking about the intentions of the 3 generations in his heart. "Mention Qian Shao blood, school performance. Do you want to promote yourself? Don't be too nervous. I called you here to chat with you. By the way, your strength has reached the level of Shangnan after awakening the blood of Qian Shao. Would you like to take the Shangnan exam?" The 3rd generation took out an application form. "Application for the Jiaonan exam. This form needs to be filled out by yourself." "Hunin exam?" Jingyi was taken aback. He guessed that it might be a benefit to himself, but he didn't expect that it would be the Shangnan promotion exam. "Joinin." He was lost in thought. There are pros and cons to this matter. When you become a Jainin, you will have greater power and freedom, but you will have greater responsibilities accordingly, and the tasks you will take on after that will be even more arduous. But anyway, the 3rd generation evaluates his own strength here, and instead of being promoted to Jainin, the opponent has ideas. Thinking of this, he scratched his head and said, "Lord Naruto, I'm just Chunin, I'm worried that my ability is not enough. The strength is absolutely enough, and other aspects can be exercised. There is a lot of vacancies in the war for many years. Now there is an urgent need for manpower to make up for it. If you can make up for it, it will be the best." 3 generations sighed. "My lord thinks I can do it, then I'll try it." Jingyi breathed a sigh of relief. He took the list and signed it. "That's right. Ability can be cultivated. Spirit and will are the key. There are not many people who can understand the will of fire," Sanday said with a smile. Jing took it to heart. "Stop the water. Look," he said, "the 3rd generation has to thank himself." "Certainly. Right now, Uchiha is probably jumping on his feet. He's a genius. He became like this within a few days of becoming a teacher. He might have to come to trouble him another day. But it doesn't matter. Uchiha's current group of people are soft-footed shrimp. When Madara ran away, they didn't dare to follow him. After Jing's death, 3 generations of high-ranking, layers of oppression, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com let them gradually move away from the center of Konoha, but they still did not dare to resist. It wasn't until the day went on that I thought of rebelling. Why did you go early? Jingichi despised the current Uchiha including Uchiha Fugaku. This is also an incompetent, weak and indecisive. If Zishui can get rid of his unrealistic delusions and naivety, even Zishui is much more qualified than Fuyu. Out of the office. As soon as Jing walked home, he thought secretly in his heart. The attitude of the 3rd generation is obvious. He was recruiting himself, hoping that he would rely on the Naruto faction. For this reason, he also brought out the relationship between Jian Shao and Chen Guzi's rotten sesame. Although it is ridiculous, it is enough to prove that the 3 generations have no malice towards him. In a short period of time, there is no need to worry about the 3 generations taking action against him. Even Sanday may also protect himself from Danzo. As long as you are prepared for covered means. As for promotion to Shangnan, there will be a war in the coming year, and having a Shangnan position will benefit me a lot. So, the position of Joinin will definitely be contested. Only, as a Joinin, what should I do with my system? Jing took a look at the iTutor system. This system is a good teacher. After becoming a shinobi, he definitely did not allow himself to continue to stay in the shinobi school. However, he was originally a temporary worker, and even if he was not a genin, it seemed unlikely that he would continue to stay at the ninja school after his injury. When Jing thought of this, his thoughts became clear. When you become a genin, you can also apply to lead a team. If you don't use the characteristics of being a good teacher, you can point others everywhere. No problem. Now it's not quite the same as Naruto of later generations. The selection of Chunin and Shangnin exams is actually up to the village. The joint Chunin exam is a game method for villages in peaceful times after the war. So, this time, the Jounin exam was held inside Konoha. During the war years, the promotion process of Joinin was generally very simple, but the current situation is different. The war is almost over. Yes. 3 generations have mentioned it to Jing Ai. The war on the front line is completely over, Sandian village seeks peace, and now the ninjas have withdrawn themselves, the war is at the end stage, and some ninjas will even return to the village recently. The ninja school graduation exam is also on the agenda. It seems that we have to find a way to speed up the progress during this time. With so many little sheep, it's a pity not to take a handful. Jing Yi pondered secretly. If his guesses about the system are correct, the next wave of teaching the telekinesis technique should be able to make a lot of money. But just teaching children, that's all the reward. It seems that this system needs to be studied. According to the novice reward, the reward that I have received so far is really not high. There is definitely a way to get higher rewards. The next day, Jing Ai didn't have class, so he let his clone practice swordsmanship, while he went out to exercise. There are many more people on the street. It seems that some ninjas have already returned. Jing Ai saw an acquaintance. All green. Mat K. He graduated from the ninja school at the age of 7. In that exam, he also fought with Obito, directly breaking the knot of Obito's fireball technique. After running for a while, Jing Ai saw another acquaintance. Matty. The same outfit, except for more beards, is simply an enlarged version of Kai. Matty? Jing suddenly moved in his heart. That's a good goal. Others don't know, but he understands how strong Matty's body is. In the original book, Matt Dai didn't know any physique moves. With only his strong body, he opened the 8 armors, and he beat and kicked the famous Wu Nin 7 swordsmen into auspicious 3 treasures. If you learn physique moves, then what? Jing was heartbroken. If you can point out Matty, the reward will definitely be extraordinary. But when he went up rashly, he had to give pointers. The other party was afraid that he would not be treated as a neurotic. I have to draw it slowly. Thinking of this, he didn't say much, just ran as usual. Matty didn't notice at first. But on the second lap, he noticed Jing Ai who had been running. Are there any ninjas in the village who are keen on taijutsu? And very young, at most 15 or 16. Matty was a little curious. Third and fourth laps. Mat K accelerated. Jing Yi secretly smiled. The child really couldn't hold back his breath, so he couldn't help but want to make a gesture. He also picked up speed. Jing Ai has 1,000 blood vessels, and his body recovers very quickly. Although he is not as strong as Mate Day, but I can't outrun you, I can't outrun you? After an hour, Mate Kai noticed that Jing didn't blush or was out of breath, and knew that this young man who was a few years older than him didn't use much effort at all, and he would definitely be able to run up even faster, and it wouldn't be too hard. Just when he was thinking about whether to take off the weight. Kai! You guy! Bang! A heavy muffled sound. Mat K was kicked out. Follow closely. Matty rushed over with a swish, hugged his head with tears in his eyes and said, "You bastard! Training hard is not for you to compete and fight." "Yes, father, I know I was wrong. Take a deep breath. No wonder Kai is called a rare beast by the dried persimmon ghost shark, which can be seen from the current Mat Dai. The two hugged and cried bitterly. Rao Shijing I had seen it in the anime, but he also felt a strong sense of discomfort. In his era, these two people are definitely out-and-out social patients. Too fierce. Only. In the eyes of others, it is inevitable to be a bit embarrassed. At this moment, he is considering whether to go away for a while and come back later. Fortunately, at this time, the crying stopped. Thank you for not having the same knowledge as my child. Matty said gratefully. Although he didn't know Kyoiki's position, he vaguely felt that he was at least above the Chunin or even stronger. Just exercising, what's the point? Jing shook his head. Then, he said goodbye to Matty and Metkai, and continued to run forward. After running for a while, he went to a roadside woods and started to practice his moves. In fact, it was the Taishu move that Kai studied. Whirlwind of Leaves. This move is the core of Meikai Gangchuan Taishu, and many of the subsequent Taishu moves are extended from this, and it is not too difficult. Previously, Jing I's shadow clone took half a day to practice. At first, Matty and Mot Ki didn't care. But, passing by a few times, they saw that Jing I was still practicing flying spin kick over there, and they couldn't help but start trying to figure out this move. Result. Aren't you running away? Ah. I'm very sorry, we watched your practice secretly just now, I'm really sorry. Matty immediately bowed and apologized. Although ninja practice is not that taboo, such as moves, they have been staring at it and it is easy to cause disputes. It's nothing, I'm still researching this technique. If you are interested, you can think about it together and introduce yourself. My name is Kanda Kiichi, and I'm a teacher at the ninja school. How about you? Are you a teacher at the school? Mat K was a little surprised. She doesn't look much older than herself. Kanda-sensei, my name is Mate Day, this is my son Mate Kai. Mat Ella said, pulling K. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. You guys are very strong, do you want to study taijutsu moves with me? This. Are you really willing to teach me? Dai hesitated, but Mate Kai couldn't help it. This trick is very appetizing. He wants to learn. It's not a very powerful technique in the first place, and I'm just thinking about it blindly. Jing I said. He suddenly exerted his strength, jumped up and kicked the roundabout, and kicked the tree heavily. The thick trees swayed several times. It's actually a simple roundhouse kick, but with physical strength and chakra, you can play different levels of attack. As soon as Jing said that, he kicked out again. This time, instead of kicking a tree, it was a stone. Bang! With one foot, the stone cracked. Okay, that's amazing. Lord Father. Mat K turned to look at Mat Day. He wants to learn. But Matty said before that it took him 20 years to practice that move. If he was distracted and practiced by himself, he might not be able to master his father's moves. Kai hesitated. In fact, Matty was also hesitant. He is Wan Nian Xianin, and his son Kai is also not a genius. In school, except for physical skills, he failed all the other grades. He graduated with extraordinary physical skills. Usually, the two have been unpopular. This boy is a chunin at a young age, and he is very kind and even willing to teach them taijutsu. Kanda-sensei, this. It's just physical skills. Jing I didn't force it, and said that he took care of himself to practice. Mate Kai imitated the action on the side, Mate Day hesitated for a moment, and finally left without pulling a Kai.